For 15 years, I took care of my wife. She never worked a day in her life. She would wrap her arms around me and tell me how much it hurt her that I had to spend so much time running operations in South America, that I was the only one she could ever rely on. To surprise her, I put in for a transfer back to the States, telling no one. The day I came home, the elevator in our building was out. I carried the limited edition handbag I bought for her and started climbing from the lobby. We lived on the 12th floor. Just as I reached the 10th floor landing, I heard it. My wife's familiar, breathless sighs. She was leaning against the railing, held in the arms of a strange man. When I saw her flushed face, I quietly turned around and walked back down. Back in my car in the underground garage, I blankly pulled out my phone. I canceled the 2 first-class tickets to the Maldives I'd booked for the following week. I didn't leave right away. I just sat there in the dark, lighting a cigarette. The car still smelled of her favorite aromatherapy oil, a scent that now made my stomach churn. I opened my phone and tapped on a home security app. I'd installed a few micro cameras around the apartment for security. The most recent recording was from that afternoon. I played it. The strange young man, wearing the slippers I kept for myself in the foyer, walked into my home like he owned the place. Chloe, my wife, wearing the silk robe I'd had a friend bring back from Paris for her last month, wrapped her arms around him from behind. They were laughing, fooling around, before tumbling onto the king-size bed in our master bedroom. The camera feed shook, and the sounds were vile. Expressionless, I saved the key video clips to an encrypted cloud drive. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Honey, why aren't you home yet? I thought you were landing today. I miss you so much. Kisses. 15 years of marriage had taught me to read every nuance in her tone. That "I miss you so much" was laced with impatience, a hint of urgency. She was rushing me to get home so she could end her little affair. I crushed out the cigarette and called my personal assistant in the States, Leo Carter. I need a full review of all my assets, specifically the activity on all of Chloe's secondary cards, properties, and any trust funds linked to her. And one more thing, run a background check on a personal trainer named Ryan Miller. I want everything you can find on him. Dig back as far as you can. Right away, Mr. Stone. Leo's voice was as efficient as ever. Sir, are you back? Do you need me to pick you up? No. I hung up and started the car. The engine's roar was deafening in the empty garage. I didn't go back to that place I once called home. Instead, I drove to my other property, a penthouse in Midtown Manhattan, a place Chloe never knew existed. The hot water pounded down on me, but it couldn't wash away the filth I felt inside. I looked at myself in the mirror, my skin tanned from the foreign sun, my eyes sharpened by the grit and dust of the mines. 15 years of love, of sacrifice, all turned to ash today. After my shower, I walked out with just a towel around my waist and stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. The city's neon lights glittered below me like a pile of cheap glass beads. My phone lit up again. It was Chloe. Oh, okay, we'll be safe. I'll wait up for you. Even through the screen, I could picture the look of relief washing over her face. The man she was with was probably still there. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my contacts and found a number I hadn't called in years. Hey, it's me. Remember me? There was a pause on the other end, then a surprised voice. Ethan, you son of a gun. You finally decided to call me. I'm back in the States. I need a favor. It's a domestic issue. Name it. I want a divorce. From Chloe. Yeah. She cheated on you? How did you know? Are you kidding me? We all saw how you spoiled her back in the day. It would have to be something like cheating for you to ever leave her. I was silent. All right. Text me your address. I'll come by tomorrow. It's about time you saw what your old classmate has been up to. I'm the best divorce attorney in the country now. Sophia Ford's voice on the other end was confident and sharp. After hanging up, I deleted my entire text history with Chloe. 15 years. Over 30,000 messages, from sweet nothings to mundane chatter, and finally, to deceit. I didn't hesitate for a second. The next day, I went home, pretending nothing had happened. Chloe, dressed in a beautiful loungewoman outfit with perfect, light makeup, threw herself at me the moment I opened the door. Honey, you're finally back. I missed you to death. She hugged me tightly, her soft body pressing against mine, her voice filled with the joy of a long-awaited reunion. I gave her a stiff pat on the back and handed her the shopping bag I was holding. A gift for you. Her eyes went wide when she saw the logo on the bag. She shrieked with delight and immediately tore it open. Wow, it's the one I sent you a picture of. You're the best, honey. She stood on her toes and kissed my cheek. The scent of her lipstick made my stomach turn. What took you so long? The elevator was broken yesterday. I was worried you got stuck, she chattered, admiring her new purse. Yeah, I said calmly, taking off my shoes. I started climbing the stairs yesterday, but got exhausted by the 10th floor, so I went back down. I stared directly at her face. Her smile froze for an instant, her eyes darting away. Oh, well, that's such a shame. Come on, come inside. I made your favorite pot roast. She quickly changed the subject, pulling me enthusiastically toward the dining room. The table was covered with a lavish spread, all my favorite dishes. In the past, a scene like this would have moved me, made me feel like all my hard work was worth it. Today, it felt like a sick joke. She served me food, asking in a soft voice if my time in South America was difficult. A friend of mine over there is going through a rough time, I said, picking up a piece of meat, as if speaking casually. What happened? He's away a lot for work, and his wife got lonely. Started seeing someone else. All the money he worked so hard for, she was spending on her boy toy. Pathetic, isn't it? Clatter. Chloe's fork fell to the floor. Her face was pale as she bent down to pick it up. That woman is horrible. She's not even human, she stammered, her voice trembling slightly as she retrieved her fork. She looked up at me, forcing a smile that was uglier than a grimace. Don't you worry, honey. I'll only ever love you. You're my whole world. What would I ever do without you? Her acting was superb. Her eyes reddened on cue. I just nodded and kept eating. After dinner, I leaned back on the sofa and said my phone was dead, asking to borrow hers to call my assistant. She unlocked it and handed it over without a second thought. Here you go, honey. I took her phone to the balcony, my back to her. My fingers moved quickly, plugging in a micro data syncing device. Within seconds, everything on her phone, chats, photos, transaction records, was copied to my device. I saw her text with Ryan Miller. Babe, he's delayed again. Tonight is all ours. Hey, sweetie, I used your car to buy my mom a lawnmower set. She was so happy. Babe, I think my husband is getting suspicious. We should probably lay low for a bit. Scrolling down, I saw the money transfers to him. Tens of thousands, $100,000 at a time. The memos read, a bonus for my baby's spending money. I even found a draft of a business plan. She was planning to convince me to invest $500,000 to open a boutique fitness studio for Ryan. My wonderful wife. Later that night, she came out of the shower wearing a sexy nightgown and wrapped her arms around me from behind. Her warm breath was on my neck. Honey, I've missed you so much. I grabbed her hands and pulled them off me. Not tonight. I'm exhausted from the flight. Her body went rigid. I could feel the surprise in her eyes, the disappointment, and even a flicker of annoyance. She was probably upset that I was interrupting her fun. The next morning, I left early, using the excuse of an important international conference call at the office. I didn't go to the office. I drove straight to the most expensive office building in the city. Sophia Ford's law firm was on the top floor. She was wearing a sharp, black power suit, her hair cut short. Her makeup was flawless, her gaze intense. You're here, she said, handing me a cup of pour-over coffee. So, tell me what happened. I plugged the encrypted flash drive into her laptop. It contained all the evidence I had compiled, the photos of Chloe and Ryan in the stairwell, the security camera footage from our home, the text messages, the spending records. Sophia reviewed it all quickly, her expression unchanging. This is clean, she said when she was done. She's the at-fault party in an infidelity case. The vast majority of your assets are premarital or held under your corporate entities. What she can walk away with is next to nothing. I want her to walk away with nothing, I said. No problem. Sophia nodded. The first step is to freeze all her financial resources. Make her understand her situation. I signed a stack of documents, giving Sophia full power of attorney. Thank you for this. We're old friends for. Just buy me dinner tonight, Sophia said. Leaving the law firm, I call my assistant, Leo. Mr. Stone, the file you requested has been sent to your email. Good. Also, execute the asset freeze immediately. Suspend every secondary bank card and all access to family trust funds under Chloe's name. And for our apartment, notify building management that we're changing the locks and the codes. Understood. At 3 p.m, while Sophia and I were finalizing the details of the divorce agreement in a coffee shop, my phone started ringing. It was Chloe. I didn't answer. The phone rang a dozen more times before falling silent. Then came the flood of texts. Honey, where are you? Why isn't my card working? All my cards are frozen. What's going on? Pick up the phone. I'm stuck at the boutique. This is so embarrassing. Honey, are you mad at me? I'm sorry. Please don't ignore me. I stared at the messages, feeling nothing. Sophia glanced at my screen, a cold smirk playing on her lips. Looks like she's starting to panic. A new message came through. I'm home, but the code isn't working. I can't get in. Honey, where are you? The time was right. I sent her a single text. We're waiting for you at the cafe where we had our first date. Come talk. Half an hour later, Chloe burst in like a frightened rabbit. The moment she saw Sophia, sitting across from me, and the document on the table titled Divorce Agreement. The color drained from her face. She froze, staring at me in disbelief. I tossed a stack of printed photos and screenshots in front of her. Pictures of her and Ryan kissing in the stairwell. Pictures of her lying in his arms, smiling sweetly. Screenshots from the video of them tumbling on our marital bed. What is this? Her voice was trembling. Chloe, sign it, I said calmly, and then you can get out. The house, the cars, everything on your back that you didn't earn yourself, it all stays. She stumbled, grabbing the table to keep from falling. No, it's not. Ethan, let me explain. Explain. I laughed. Explain how much fun you were having in my bed. My words were a knife, slicing through her facade. She crumpled to the floor, looking at me with desperation. I'm sorry. Ethan, I'm so sorry. Please, just forgive me this one time. Chloe grabbed my leg, sobbing hysterically. It was a moment of weakness. He seduced me. You're the one I've always loved. I shook her hand off in disgust, pulling a napkin from the table to wipe the spot where she had touched my pants. When you were all over him in the stairwell, writhing on the bed I bought, did you think about your moment of weakness then? I stared down at her coldly. How long have you been playing me for a fool? A month? 6 months? A year? Her sobbing stopped abruptly. Her face was ashen. She refused to sign the papers and started making a scene. Ethan, you heartless bastard. I was married to you for 15 years. I was practically a widow for 15 years while you were away. How can you do this to me? I gave you the best years of my life. And now that you're rich, you want to throw me away. You're just like all the others. People in the cafe were starting to stare. I had no desire to waste any more time on her. I stood up and straightened my jacket. My lawyer will speak with you. You have 3 days. If you don't sign, I'll release this evidence to the public, including to your parents and all your best friends. I turned and walked out, Sophia following me. I could hear Chloe's desperate cries behind me, but I didn't look back. After being thrown out of the cafe, Chloe ran, crying to her true love, Ryan. After hearing her story, Ryan's eyes lit up instead of offering comfort. Chloe, don't be afraid. Leave this to me. He gave her an idea. She should leak her story to the media, painting herself as the devoted wife of 15 years who was being cruelly abandoned by her ruthless, wealthy husband. A guy as rich as your husband cares about his reputation more than anything. Once public opinion is on your side, he'll have to back down. And when he does, we won't just settle for a divorce. We'll sue him for damages. We'll hit him hard. $50 million. No, $100 million. Ryan's eyes gleamed with greed. He didn't care about Chloe. He only cared about my money. Unfortunately, the love-struck Chloe believed him once again. She quickly found some gossip blogs online and anonymously posted a long, emotional story. In her post, she described herself as a lonely housewife who had loved her husband deeply, sacrificing everything while he was away for 15 years. I, on the other hand, was painted as a man who was never home, treated her coldly, and wanted to discard her the moment he became successful. The post was inflammatory and gained sympathy from clueless readers. 15 years. How many 15 years does a woman have? That man is trash. Money really does corrupt people. You go, girl. Make him pay. Get half of everything. Fueled by the online support and Ryan's encouragement, Chloe grew bold. Through her lawyer, she formally filed a claim for the division of assets. She demanded half of all marital property, a sum of at least $50 million. When Sophia forwarded me her demand, I was reviewing a geological survey report. I saw the $50 million figure and laughed. I told Sophia, let her make a scene. The bigger, the better. At the same time, I had Leo prepare a special gift, a detailed accounting of every single dollar I had spent on Chloe over the past 15 years. It was also time for everyone to learn who I really was. The story fermented online for 2 days, gaining more and more traction. Chloe's sob story was reposted by major tabloid sites, each with a more sensational headline than the last. 15 years of devotion. My billionaire husband wants to leave me with nothing. Inside a gilded cage. The tragic tale of a discarded trophy wife. Just when Chloe thought victory was in her grasp, waiting for me to come crawling back, Forbes published an exclusive interview. The headline read, "The Invisible Titan, Ethan Stone, from South American mines to a global empire." The accompanying photo was of me in a bespoke suit, sitting in my office against a panoramic view of the Manhattan skyline. In the interview, I made my first public appearance as the chairman of Apex Global Mining. I briefly recounted my story of starting from scratch and building my business overseas, and how I had always maintained a low profile to protect my family's privacy. The interviewer then tactfully brought up the recent online rumors about my family dispute. I didn't answer directly, just offered a faint smile. Regarding my personal affairs, I have authorized my legal counsel, Ms. Sophia Ford, to make a statement. The camera immediately cut to Sophia, seated beside me. Facing the camera, she calmly and professionally released a portion of the evidence of Chloe's infidelity. The photos of her kissing Ryan in the stairwell, though blurred, clearly showed their figures and clothing. But the real killer was the financial report, dozens of pages long. This is a detailed record of Mr. Stone's expenditures on Ms. Hayes' personal consumption over the last 15 years. During this period, Ms. Hayes was unemployed. All of her expenses were covered by Mr. Stone. The grand total exceeds $15 million. Last month alone, Ms. Hayes spent over $300,000 on luxury handbags and clothing. The personal allowance Mr. Stone provided Ms. Hayes annually was a seven-figure sum. Sophia's voice was clear and powerful. Every number was a hammer blow, striking hard at the public's perception. A devoted, self-made billionaire who gave his wife everything versus a deceitful woman who used her husband's millions to support her affair while playing the victim. The contrast was stark. Public opinion exploded instantly. The readers who had sympathized with Chloe felt like they'd been played for fools. WTF? A seven-figure allowance? She calls it being a widow? Sign me up for that life. She used her husband's money to keep a boy toy and then cried about being a poor, abandoned wife? Funniest joke of the year. $15 million. How did this woman have the nerve to write that post? Dox her. Find this shameless woman and her sleazy boyfriend. Chloe's victim post was quickly traced back to her, and the comment section was overrun by enraged users. All her social media accounts were unearthed, her DMs filled with vile, abusive messages. Her parents, her friends, the very people to whom she had endlessly boasted about her life, called to question her, then swiftly cut all ties. Ryan Miller was also doxxed by the furious mob. The gym where he worked, desperate to distance itself, fired him immediately. His shady past, a history of scamming money and sleeping with clients, was dragged into the light. Chloe was socially executed. Hiding in a cheap rental, she stared at the endless flood of insults on her phone, her body shaking uncontrollably. Only then did she finally realize what she had lost. It wasn't just the money. It was the entire world of dignity, glamour, and envy that I had built for her over 15 years with my time and my fortune. With nowhere left to turn, she called me again. I answered. Her voice was filled with terror and tears. Ethan, I was wrong. Please help me. I hung up and blocked her number. There was nothing left to say to someone who was already dead to me. Ryan Miller's reputation was in ruins. On top of that, it turned out he had scammed other female clients and was now saddled with a mountain of debt to loan sharks. Collectors were camped outside his door day and night. He blamed Chloe for everything. If that stupid woman hadn't blown things up, he'd be opening his own studio with a few million in his pocket by now. Instead, the money was gone, his job was gone, and his name was toxic. He decided to make one last, desperate gamble. He found the basement apartment where Chloe was hiding. At that moment, she was huddled in a corner, knees pulled to her chest, shivering. Ryan knocked on the door. When she saw him, she looked like she had seen a ghost. What are you doing here? This is all your fault. But Ryan's demeanor was completely different. His face was covered in a gentle smile. Chloe, don't be scared. I'm here to help you. He stepped inside, comforting her in a soft voice. There's still a way out of this. If you work with me, we can get the money, run away together, and start over somewhere no one knows us. Pushed to the absolute edge, Chloe's judgment failed her once again. She looked at Ryan as if he were her last lifeline. Really? We can start over. Of course. Ryan promised her. He lured her to an abandoned warehouse. And there, his true colors emerged. He tied her up with rope, took pictures of her crying in terror, and sent them to me. Ethan Stone, I have your wife. $100 million in old, non-sequential bills, where you can come collect her body. I was in Sophia's office when I received the message. We were sipping her prized Hong Pao tea. I showed her the phone. She raised an eyebrow. He's desperate. It was expected, I said calmly. From a day I returned to the States, on my orders, my assistant Leo had hired a professional security team to monitor Ryan's movements 24/7. His every action was under my control. I forwarded the photos, the ransom text, and the warehouse's real-time GPS location directly to the police. Sophia pulled up the live feed from the security team surveillance. On the high-definition screen, Ryan was pacing smugly, phone in hand, waiting for my reply. I was so unconcerned I had time to lift my teacup and comment to Sophia, "This tea is excellent." Of course it is. It's a genuine Wooey Mountain original. We watched the screen like it was a movie. Less than 10 minutes after Ryan sent the text, the warehouse doors were smashed open. A fully armed SWAT team descended like ghosts, slamming him to the ground in an instant. Ryan was in handcuffs before he even had time to react. Chloe was untied, and an officer draped a blanket over her shoulders. She was still in shock, thanking the police incoherently. A young officer told her, "Ma'am, you don't have to thank us. You should thank your husband. He reported it the moment it happened and provided us with your exact location." Chloe froze. He called the police? He knew all along. She collapsed onto the cold concrete floor, her mind a complete blank. She finally understood. From start to finish, she had been nothing but a stupid pawn used by Ryan. And the man she had betrayed, the man she thought she could manipulate, wielded a power and a level of control she couldn't even begin to imagine. She had lost, utterly and completely. The divorce proceedings were a foregone conclusion. In court, Sophia presented a mountain of irrefutable evidence. As the party guilty of gross marital misconduct, Chloe was ordered to leave the marriage with nothing. She had no premarital assets, and all the luxury goods and jewelry I had given her were deemed gifts intended to maintain the marital relationship. With the relationship broken, the basis for the gifts was void, and she was required to return everything. The moment the judge's gavel fell, Chloe's face was ashen. The judgment was enforced, and she was evicted from the home we once shared. She left with nothing but a few changes of old clothes and a few $1,000s she had left after paying her lawyer. She tried to go to her parents, but they told her she had brought shame on the entire family, screaming at her over the phone and refusing to let her in. In the end, her mother softened, shoving $20,000 through a crack in the door and telling her to get lost and never contact them again. For the first time in her life, Chloe, who had been pampered for 15 years, tasted homelessness. She had to drag her luggage to a grim, low-income neighborhood in the outer boroughs and rent a sunless basement apartment. The room was dark and damp, with peeling paint and the smell of mildew in the air. For the first time, she had to worry about survival. She was 36 years old, hadn't worked a day in 15 years, and had no marketable skills. The resumes she submitted went unanswered. Finally, she found a job as a waitress in a small diner, clearing tables and washing dishes. She was yelled at by her boss and criticized by customers all day. At the end of her shift, her back ached and her hands were blistered from hot oil. She would drag her exhausted body back to that tiny basement room. She'd look in a mirror at her own face, now sallow and gaunt from stress and poor nutrition, and at her hands, raw and red from the harsh dish soap. She began to miss her old life with a desperate, all-consuming ache. She missed waking up whenever she wanted, shopping and having afternoon tea with her friends, and waiting for her husband to come home, knowing that a little pouting could get her the latest designer bag. Regret was a venomous snake, gnawing at her heart day and night. She finally understood that what I had given her was never just money. It was a world free of worry, a world of respect and envy. And she had destroyed it all with her own hands. She started trying to find information about me, like a madwoman. Soon, she saw me on the financial news. I was standing shoulder to shoulder with a woman of remarkable presence, announcing a strategic partnership between Apex, Global Mining, and a top domestic clean energy firm. They were launching a new multi-billion-dollar project. She recognized the woman. It was my lawyer, Sophia Ford. On the screen, Sophia and I shared a look and smiled, a picture of perfect understanding. That smile, that look, it was like a knife in Chloe's heart. She knew that spot, next to me, should have been hers. Chloe began a pathetic and ridiculous quest to win me back. She found the address of my new corporate headquarters, quit her diner job, and started waiting outside the building every day. The first time, she threw herself in front of my car, only to be swiftly intercepted by my well-trained security and dragged aside like a sack of garbage. I sat in the car, looked straight ahead, and drove past her without a glance. The second time, it was pouring rain. She stood there without an umbrella from morning until late at night, soaked to the bone, shivering, her hair plastered to her face. When I left work, she rushed toward me, just to croak out a hoarse, "I'm sorry." I had my assistant get out and hand her an umbrella. Then, with Sophia, who had been working late with me, in the passenger seat, I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see her standing under the umbrella, sobbing uncontrollably in the rain. She started trying to mimic the woman I used to know. She learned to make soup, simmering cheap ingredients for hours on a small stove in her rented room, then bringing it to my company's front desk. The receptionist would politely accept it, then toss it in the trash the moment she left. She wrote me long, rambling letters on the stationery we used to like. She reminisced about our life together, from college to marriage, confessing her stupidity and her mistakes, every word a plea. I never read a single one. Sophia had them sent directly to the shredder. On my birthday, she used the wages she had painstakingly saved for months to buy a small, cheap fruitcake. She waited all night outside my apartment building in the freezing wind. When I left for work the next morning, all I saw was a figure huddled in a corner, nearly frozen, and the crushed remains of the cake on the ground. I didn't break my stride. To me, all of her actions were just a clumsy, irritating performance. She even went to my parents, but I had already spoken to them, and they had seen the news. They felt nothing but disappointment and coldness toward her, and refused to even open the door. When all other methods had failed, she finally broke through the security line as I was getting out of my car one day, and threw herself at my feet. She knelt on the pavement, clutching my legs, tears and snot streaming down her face. "Ethan, I really know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance. I don't want anything anymore. I don't want money or the house. I just want to be near you. I'll be a slave to you and Ms. Ford." Her wailing attracted a crowd of onlookers. I stopped, crouched down, and looked calmly into her colorless face. My voice was quiet, but clear enough for her to hear. "You know, Chloe, some things, once they're broken, can't be fixed. And frankly, you disgust me." I stood up and walked into the building without a backward glance, her utterly shattered screams echoing behind me. My relationship with Sophia happened naturally. The way she handled the situation with Chloe, her calm, professional, and decisive manner, left a deep impression on me. And during our subsequent collaboration on the Clean Energy Project, I saw her brilliance as a top-tier lawyer and her vision as a business partner. She was independent, clear-headed, and always knew what she wanted. Being with her, I felt a sense of ease and connection I had never known. I admired her intellect, and she respected my strategic mind. One night, as we were celebrating the successful closing of a project phase, I told her how I felt. "Sophia, I don't want you to be my lawyer anymore." She raised an eyebrow, looking at me. "I want you to be my girlfriend." She smiled, her eyes dancing. "Mr. Stone, I have quite a few suitors. You'll have to show me some serious commitment. I will give you final interpretive authority on all my future legal affairs. Is that commitment enough?" Her smile widened. "Deal." We were official. We were no longer client and lawyer, but equal partners, soulmates. We could fight side by side in the boardroom and share our deepest thoughts late at night. I took her to the library in my Manhattan penthouse. It was my true sanctuary, filled with walls of classic books and my collection of rare teas. Chloe, in 15 years, had never once set foot in here. She had no interest in any of it. She only cared about what new handbag I'd bought her. Sophia was different. She could discuss everything from Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire to Harari Sapiens. When I brewed tea, she could accurately identify the year and origin of a vintage pu'er cake. I acquired a piece of prime real estate she had been eyeing for years, helping her build her own legal empire. In return, when I faced a malicious attack from a business rival, she used her impeccable legal knowledge to help me orchestrate a perfect counteroffensive. We went to the Maldives together, finally using a version of those first-class tickets I had once canceled. On a sun-drenched beach, Sophia leaned against my shoulder. "Thank you, Ethan." "For what?" "Thank you for showing me what a man can truly be." My life was finally filled with genuine sunlight and laughter. It was a world away from the one-sided, self-congratulatory effort of the past 15 years. Before long, Chloe saw the news on a gossip site. My engagement to Sophia in Paris. The article featured a photo of me on one knee, placing a massive diamond ring called the Eternal Heart on Sophia's finger. Sophia was beaming with pure happiness. The report mentioned the ring's value was in the 8 figures. Chloe stared at her phone screen in her dark, damp basement apartment and cried until she passed out. What she didn't know was that the ring's designer was Sophia herself. She had earned everything she had through her own talent and hard work. And Chloe, besides crying, knew how to do nothing at all. Ryan Miller was sentenced to 3 years for attempted kidnapping and extortion. It wasn't a long sentence, but his life was over. When he got out, he had nothing and couldn't find a decent job. He directed all of his resentment at Chloe, the source of all his problems. He found her in the slum she was living in. From that day on, Chloe's already difficult life turned into a living hell. Ryan constantly harassed and extorted her. One day he'd demand money for food. The next he'd force her to pay his rent. If Chloe refused, He'd threatened to scream their whole sordid history for the entire neighborhood to hear. Chloe called the police. But because it was a series of small financial disputes and their relationship was complicated, the police could only mediate, warning Ryan to stay away. For a lowlife like him, such warnings were useless. Ryan only got worse. One night, he got drunk and kicked down the flimsy wooden door to Chloe's apartment. Reeking of cheap liquor, he lunged at her with bloodshot eyes. "You bitch. It's all your fault my life is ruined. Tonight, you're going to make it up to me." He tore at her clothes, hitting and kicking her. Chloe fought back, screaming, begging. But in the tiny room, her voice was weak and helpless. During a pause in the beating, she summoned all her strength and fumbled for the phone by her bed. She frantically dialed the number she knew by heart, the one she had memorized long ago. "My number." The call connected. My voice on the other end was cold and calm. "Who is this?" The moment she heard my voice, Chloe felt as if she had caught a single strand of a spider's thread lowered from heaven. She used the last of her energy to scream, "Ethan, help me. Ryan is going to kill me. He's hitting me. Help me." The line went silent for a moment. A dead, crushing silence. To Chloe, those few seconds felt like a century. Then, she heard a woman's voice, gentle and concerned. It was Sophia. "Who is it? It's so late." And then she heard my voice reply to the woman, my tone softer and warmer than she had ever heard it. "Wrong number." Then, beep, beep, beep. The sound of the disconnected line was the final judge's gavel, shattering the last sliver of hope in Chloe's heart. It broke the last thread of her will to live. Despair consumed her completely. Ryan was still on top of her, assaulting her, spitting obscenities. Chloe's eyes went vacant. In that abyss of utter hopelessness, her hand found the lamp on the nightstand. It was a heavy, old-fashioned metal lamp. She raised it high and, with every ounce of strength she had left, brought it crashing down on Ryan's head. Once, twice, 3 times, blood splattered across her face. She was eventually sentenced to prison for intentional injury, her self-defense claim deemed excessive. My assistant, Leo, reported the final outcome for Chloe and Ryan to me while I was with Sophia, reviewing the architectural designs for her new law offices. The plans, which Sophia had drawn herself, were modern and powerful. When I heard Leo's report, I simply grunted in acknowledgement, my eyes never leaving the blueprints. The natural lighting in this lounge area could be better, I said to Sophia. Sophia put down her pen and looked up at me. She was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you feel anything at all? Pity, maybe?" I shook my head and took her hand. It was the path she chose. I looked into her eyes and said, with conviction, "I never sought revenge. I only took back what was mine to begin with, including the emotional cost of those 15 years. Whether her life turned out good or bad after, that was the direct result of her own actions. I have no obligation and no interest in paying for her mistakes." Sophia smiled, a beautiful, genuine smile. She squeezed my hand tightly. "That's a good way to be." Our wedding was a low-key affair, with only our closest family and friends. I introduced Sophia to my parents. They were incredibly pleased with their new daughter-in-law, independent, capable, and respectful. At dinner, my mother held Sophia's hand and chattered on, while my father, beside them, wore a look of contentment I hadn't seen in years. At our family gatherings, the name Chloe was never spoken again. She was like a speck of dust blown away by the wind, as if she had never existed in my life at all. My business empire grew, with the clean energy division becoming our new engine of growth. Sophia's law firm became a titan in the industry, a benchmark for excellence. We were both busy, but we always made time for each other. We would go for runs along the Hudson in the morning or fly to a private island for the weekend. I finally understood that the best kind of love isn't about raising a canary in a gilded cage. It's about soaring together, like 2 hawks against the sky. We were equals, and we were deeply in love. This was what a relationship was supposed to be. A few years later, in the common room of a women's prison, the television was broadcasting a major international business forum. A woman in a prison uniform, her hair graying and her face aged and haggard, stared intently at the screen. It was Chloe. The years and the hardships of prison life had erased all of her former radiance. On the screen, as leading figures in the global clean energy sector, Sophia and I were seated on the main stage, taking questions from the international press. The camera zoomed in for a close-up. I was in a perfectly tailored suit at the height of my powers. Beside me, Sophia was elegant and confident in a white suit. The matching wedding bands on our joined hands gleamed. My eyes were filled with love for the woman beside me and absolute certainty about our future. Hayes, inmate 3721. What are you staring at? Time for work duty, a guard shouted sharply. Chloe didn't move, her eyes fixated on the screen as an uncontrollable tremor ran through her body. An inmate next to her nudged her impatiently. What are you looking at? Your eyes are going to pop out. They're just some rich people. What's it got to do with us? Chloe ignored her, murmuring to herself in a voice as faint as a dream. That was supposed to be me. That seat. That man. All of that glory. It was all supposed to be mine. No one paid any attention to her crazed whispers. In here, everyone had a past they'd rather forget. The TV broadcast switched, and the host's excited voice praised Sophia and me as the perfect union of love and ambition in our modern era. Chloe couldn't hold herself up any longer. Her body went limp, and she collapsed to the floor. She buried her face in her rough hands and began to weep silently. The tears of regret, hot and bitter, were the only companion she would have for the rest of her long, empty life. And as for me, who she was no longer mattered at all.